My name is Will Powell, and I'm a former professional football player turned world traveler and entrepreneur. All of us are called to be great. Maybe we just need a little inspiration or direction, but most importantly, we need the willpower to follow through so we can stop dreaming and start doing. Hey guys, this is another episode of Will Power, and I'm your host, Will Powell. I had a great episode today with my long friend and acquaintance, Keith Lipetzky. We've known each other since high school, but Keith is what this show is all about. I envy his discipline and his willpower and his analytical mind. He studied computer science at DSU, moved on to an excellent career for Full Swing, where he designs really cool golf products. In this episode, we talk about, why he got into computer science and development and how he made that decision based on what his attributes as a person were, his analytical mind, his problem-solving capabilities. And then we move on to his work-life balance, him doing AcroYoga, being a beast in the gym, him doing just so many things that on a daily basis he gets out of his comfort zone on. I'm super excited to introduce Keith Lipetzky. I hope you enjoy the show. And here we are with another episode of Will Power. Keith, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Will. Good to be here.
It's been a while. I've been watching you from afar via social media. We've kind of roughly stayed in contact. You're doing huge things. First off, Full Swing. What are you working on? You're a mechanical engineer, right?
I'm a software engineer, specifically.
My apologies.
Yep. I've done a little bit of the dabbling in the mechanical stuff because the project. I've been on the project like kind of towards the beginning stages of it. So, but it's really fun. Been seeing it grow in multiple facets. But
well, and talk about the product you're working on right now. I mean, it sounds so. Give the viewers a background of what kind of company Full Swing is. It's a golf company, and you're working on some innovative stuff. So touch on that.
Yep. Full Swing isn't necessarily just a golf company, but traditionally they've been focused on that. But they do sports simulation, like in general. They do carry a large line of golf simulators, but this product is Virtual Green. So Virtual Green is kind of an innovation on like what golfing simulation has seen in its history. And the thing is, we have these golf simulators and you can swing and like it'll simulate different holes on courses and it'll properly predict all your spin and your trajectory and all this stuff, and you can virtually play a course.
Wow.
But the problem is when you putt in golf, it like rolls on the ground, and it depends what the ground looks like and feels like and is contoured. And there's never been simulation for that yet. So we have a product that does that. It's a floor that you can articulate to match to real courses, or maybe just like a course you want to make because you're bad at it and you need to practice it or something like that. So,
well, and we're going to get more into Full Swing later, but the funny point is I just think back to high school when we were acquaintances. I remember you making your own supplements. You weren't doing the status quo thing. Just taking the C4, taking the NO Explode, and I just remember you being a tinkerer. Like that was your style.
That's kind of always been my thing. I come from a pretty conservative Catholic background, and my dad was a mechanic, and I think that was a good part of it, is what got me into it. I would see him like fixing cars themselves and like just tinkering with stuff around the house. Like we never hired anyone to like do anything for us, and he would always like have me hold the flashlight or something, and he'd like talk to me about it. And I guess just over time, I never saw it to be the first resort to like look at what I can do to patch up this problem. Like it's worth it to take the time to learn about it. And like, I don't know, I've just always wanted to tinker with stuff and
talk about how you've turned that into career, right? I mean, you went to DSU, you studied development or programming, right?
My degree's in computer science. And I really like that degree because it's really diverse. Like it's not necessarily like just programming, but a lot of the guys end up being programmers because it's a great field, especially right now.
Right.
But it's just a really diverse degree. Like I was thinking of going into game design, and I felt like that was too focused. I wanted to be a little bit more broad and just keep myself safe a little bit because it has a very high job placement.
Well, and let's touch on that. I mean, let's talk about the degree of computer science in general. I mean, why is it so appealing? I mean, obviously, I think we understand. I mean, I'm in the tech business myself. I have I had a team of 5 developers. We're down to 3 now in Serbia. They're killing it for us. They're on the website of things. But just talk about the industry as a whole. Why is the computer science degree booming and the job placement so high?
I think computers are involved in everything nowadays. And when you would say that like 20 years ago, people would think of like robots building cars and like build, CNC machines milling out like wood for chairs and couches and stuff. But nowadays, it means everything. There are computers involved in everything. Whether it's like sports, I'm sure you guys have all kinds of software to redo your plays and look at replays with, I don't know, all that stuff has to do with computers. And even the art side of things, artists have Instagrams and some online service to sell things. And like, it almost seems like every like field in the world that we see like has computers involved with it to some degree.
I mean, that's 100% the case.
Yeah,
I mean,
even the people that like 30 or 40 years ago, or people in our parents' generation, like would never touch a computer. There used to be the term like city folk, and that meant like people that play with computers or have cars that do things. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
I mean, I'm just
there's tech in there, and there's tech in farm now, just like everything, dude. So,
yeah.
I saw that, and I was like, if I learn about computers, I'm going to be valuable. So that's kind of a decision I think I made like later in high school, for sure.
Well, you talked about tech in agriculture. First off, shout out to Myriad Mobile up in North Dakota. Those guys are absolutely killing it. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys, but they're about to they are making an enormous dent in the agriculture business. I mean, you've got a Raven Industries here in Sioux Falls.
I had an internship at Raven.
So did I.
Yeah, okay.
I was with Aerostar.
Oh yeah, we talked about that when, I saw you at the gym. I remember this now.
Yep. So, getting back on the point, I mean, for my children, I'm putting them into computer science, right? I mean, the job placement is so high. If you have an entrepreneurial mind, the amount of money that can be generated, the difference in the world that you can make from behind a computer is really limitless.
Or at the very least, supplement yourself with knowledge on a computer.
There you
know what I mean? Like you said, entrepreneurship. Like in my case, I wouldn't admit it's probably not just entrepreneurship, but my focus was like I have a very analytical mind, and like the way I think is very privy to engineering and problem solving and stuff like that. And it might not be that way for everyone. Like maybe they're really good artists, but hey, get a little knowledge on how to make art and do things with computers graphically, and that'll be a good fallback for you, if nothing else,
Right.
So it's always in demand.
Well, and even along those lines, I mean, with my business, we've been burned. We've wasted a significant amount of money on developers that weren't competent, that didn't have the right structure in place, and we got burned because I didn't have the development knowledge that I needed to hold them accountable and to help guide them along along those lines.
Yeah, and maybe it would have served you better to have that knowledge ahead of time.
I mean, unquestionably,
Yeah, and so I think it's going to be future generations. We need to start incorporating computer science like into programs and stuff. I think that's going to be really important.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. That's for sure. And you're in the middle of it right now at full swing. Once you graduated from DSU, how did you end up kind of getting placed with Full Swing? I mean, was that kind of a dream job for you?
Basically, yeah. I love working on Virtual Green. It's such an awesome product, and I get to come up with innovative solutions. And although I'm not like a hardcore golfer myself, just the idea of making like an innovative tool to like help someone else with their craft is like really awesome. And I didn't even realize the degree that I appreciated that aspect of it until I went to the PGA show, and these people saw this floor moving and they were all like, oh my God. And I had putting instructors telling me like, I can now train someone in like a flashcard sort of fashion, and they can like, can you read this green? Can you putt it accordingly? And like, things I hadn't thought of. My mindset is just like, oh, I'm making a cool thing that moves around and mechanically, and that's cool from that perspective. But the fact that it's a tool for something that other people are really passionate about, like that's what gets me too. Like that's another layer of like appreciation and like enjoyment that I get back from it, for sure.
Well, yeah, and that was kind of where I was heading next was, what's the gratification you get from that? Is it that constant perfecting your craft, that constant innovation? You're not really into golf, so that's kind of an issue.
It's just problem solving.
Sure.
Is all it is. Like I am attracted to problem solving and having a challenge. I think it's important. I think I want to say like these days kids are like whatever, but I feel that people want to be comfortable and more comfortable all the time. And I don't think that's the point of life. Like, be as comfortable as you need to be to maintain, but challenge yourself and place things in front of you that are challenging and make you a little uncomfortable, because you're going to come out the other side like with more skills and more versatility, and you're going to be more durable in this world, whether it be financially or socially or whatever, you know? And I've always kind of lived that way, like just diversify and like don't get out of your comfort zone a little bit, you know?
Well, everything you just said kind of sums up the point of this show. It's
willpower.
Willpower. It's our goal to encourage people to get out of that comfort zone. You live it, you breathe it, and you hit on a really good point, and that's something that I actually needed to hear today, because things are hectic at Podium right now. We have a bunch of different opportunities in front of us. We're trying to tweak our business model, and it's stressful. And exactly like you said, it's problem solving. And it's having that perspective of, let's not make this stressful. Let's just be very analytical in making the best decision possible to move our business forward.
And it's okay to be challenged, and it's okay for things to be kind of hard sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I played a lot of video games growing up. Like, I don't know if we mentioned this, but I'm a huge nerd. Obviously, if you haven't caught on by now. But
you're in the right business.
And I always loved role-playing games. And I saw some post, and I love it. It said something like, when things are getting really tough, it usually means you're about to level up. And it's like, for sure. Like, you're going to come out of that like a little bit stronger, and knowing that you can get through uncomfortable situations, you know? Like, my working out's that way too. Like, I'm big into fitness and stuff. It's the same thing. Like, I just try to put challenges in front of myself. It shouldn't be so uncomfortable that I don't make progress, but it shouldn't be so comfortable that I'm not moving. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And in a lot of aspects, it's a matter of vulnerability, right? It's a matter of putting yourself out there.
A little bit.
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, putting yourself out there and not being afraid to fail, I think, at the end of the day, is a huge tall tale fail. In fitness, in your career, the people who have achieved magnificent things in life, they put themselves out there and they were willing to fail, right? I mean, how do you deal with that on a daily basis? I mean,
it's part of life. You gotta accept that everything is a risk-reward scenario, and you know, you want to be cognizant of all the variables that are playing into like your rate of success or not, or of not, you know, and you need to take that into account, but make decisions. Because if you're afraid of failing, then you can't make a decision, like literally, unless something's 100% certain. And we all know that there's very little in this world that's 100% certain, if anything. Right.
Well, and Keith, I'm so happy that you're here, because, you know, a lot of the time I get so caught up in talking about getting out of your comfort zone, and, you know, you got to get out of South Dakota, you got to go travel the world, you got to go do this, you got to start your own business, when in reality, that's not necessarily what I mean. You're in South Dakota, you went to DSU, you have a excellent career here, and you are out of your comfort zone every single day, right? So how, you know, what makes a difference for you? How do you incorporate that, and how can you encourage people in South Dakota to do the same? Because I feel like, and maybe it's just me being naive, but I feel like, especially in this area, people just love staying in their comfort zone. They're so afraid of being uncomfortable, and so I don't know, touch on that for me.
Yeah, I think it's people. Yeah, I think people do like being comfortable too much.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, we've invented these nice couches, and we can sit down and be really comfortable, and we can have a screen in front of us that will always entertain us, and like, I don't know, make things challenging for yourself. Like, I go backpacking, like that's a hobby of mine, and that's like a facilitator of that in my life, I think.
Yeah.
And along with it comes beautiful views and things like that, but it's like a hard challenge at first.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good now, like I'm in pretty good shape, but when I first started doing like backpacking and this kind of stuff, I was really
where, specify.
Like in the mountains and stuff, like getting a 70-liter pack and carrying like 40 pounds of stuff for a couple days in the mountains, just you in the mountains, you know.
Talk about your most epic trip really quick.
I can't pick a most epic trip. No way,
dude.
Yeah,
you can. Appalachian Mountains, Rocky.
I honestly haven't been around to too many.
Sure.
But like, I've been to the Bighorns several times.
Okay.
I've been canoeing and various trips in Minnesota and stuff.
Nice.
But there's a good analogy I like that people say, I think it's in regards to backpacking or just walking on a trail in general. And it's something to the likes of like, the optimist is always looking up and he loses his footing because he's not looking down and he trips on a rock. And he's like, and then the pessimist, they're always looking down and at their current position of where they are, and they hit their head on a branch because they're not looking in front of them. The realist looks up and stays optimistic and looks down and navigates his path and finds his way in the world.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that is both literally and figuratively true. Like if you're backpacking, sometimes you come upon this like precipice and there's like a beautiful view over here. It's awesome to check it out and be like, I could be there if I work really hard and like climb up that mountain. But at the same time, I'm not just going to stare at that because I'm probably going to like trip on a rock or something over here because I'm not like looking at the trail I'm on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like that is literally true and figuratively true, I think. And like there's really something to this metaphor of like up and down, and you know, maybe it's deeply ingrained in like our human past. I don't know. But backpacking like re-energizes that idea for me. Like every time I come back, and I don't know if it's that or like the aspect that it's really challenging, or maybe just physical exercise. Maybe if I did the same dang thing on a stair mill, I would do it. I don't think so, but
I would say not. I mean, and I think it's a piece of nature too that is very underestimated in our culture. You know, for humans, being outside of your home or outside of your office in nature where we're meant to be, where we come from, I think there's tremendous value in that, you know, reducing anxiety, and just feeling fulfilled and being in the moment, you know, and we're going to lead into more of, I think, what that does in your life, but go ahead.
I think along those lines, if I can just put something on that for a sec, there's definitely this aspect of like taking your body and like all the needs of your body. There are like psychological needs and physical needs and various other things. And you need to use your brain to like make sure you're giving that what it needs. Like for all intents and purposes, my career, all that stuff doesn't depend on me going to the mountains, but I do it because like psychologically it's good for me.
Right.
You know, and the body's the same way. Like there's a reason why I exercise and eat healthy and stuff like that. Like it doesn't satisfy me in terms of like my taste buds and all that other stuff all the time, but that's not the priority. Like you need to use your brain and figure out what your body would have had, like more so in nature, and give it what it needs. And then your mind, civilize your mind, take it to higher levels, learn programming and all these like high level complicated things that you wouldn't have like in nature, in the mountains, in the cave, you know what I mean? So there's a way to do both. It's I think they say it's civilize the mind but make savage the body. And it's like, you know, like I think there's some truth to that.
I would agree. And so I want to talk about, you know, you make such great points. Now, for a lot of people, they have dreams to learn a language or to read or to learn programming. What is your advice to people to be disciplined, to have the willpower to execute?
Well, willpower is an awesome commodity, and I think it's totally underrated these days.
Yeah.
But you can build it, I think. And I think it's like people have a goal, and often goals are like advertised, like let's say earning money, like earn this amount of money in this amount of time and get this fit in this amount of time. And it's always on these like timelines or something. And like, I think what people should do is figure out, get the goal and break it into steps that are maintainable every day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, let's say I want to, let's say all I can do is stand up and walk and I want to run a marathon. Well, stand up and walk 30 feet. Is that maintainable? Like maybe it is, and then you increment it each week. And eventually that person's going to be like walking a mile. And that's the way I approach a lot of this stuff, whether it's learning a new programming language. I might put it on my schedule. I have an app that I like do some of this stuff in that makes it easier.
Sure.
And I'll be like,
what's the app called?
Asana?
I use Asana for task management.
Heck
We assigned Asana. Let's just put it out there. Let's tell these people Asana, if you're in a business, even for your own personal life, you can create tasks, you can assign tasks with due dates.
Yeah.
It's great for a team. Do you use it just individually or for your team?
I use it for myself and for my work actually, but I used it for non-work related things to start with. Because that's just the way my mind thinks. And not everyone's mind thinks this way, but this is my perspective on the world. And it's that I've found that a lot of people want to do things and they jump into it so hard that it's not a maintainable thing in their life. Like if you want to learn to do a handstand, you don't just jump up to a wall or something every day or something like that.
Right.
Like you need to hop up and try different drills and find something that's maintainable and not just throwing yourself at something so hard that it's not maintainable.
Right.
And I think a lot of people just set themselves up for a progression that's not maintainable. You know what I mean? Because it's all about the long term. That's what really matters here.
Right.
I mean, we're on this planet for a good amount of time, and a lot of goals can be got if you just progress slowly. Like don't feel the need to have it done by next week, and don't get stressed if you don't.
Right. Well, and to break it down, I think it's like you said, it's a matter of establishing a clear long-term goal, an outcome, and then setting those short-term realistic goals to get you to that to that.
If you have a goal, like whatever the goal is, and look at that goal and break it into the steps that need to be done.
Right.
Look at those steps. Are they overwhelming? Break them into some more steps. Break them into steps to where the steps aren't overwhelming. And if something's not overwhelming, then you can tackle it, right?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And then you start tackling the things, and you'll get there. It might be like 50 of them instead of 3 of them, but they're all tackleable. That's not probably not how it works. I don't know football, but you know,
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So
that's just how I do stuff.
Moral of the story is Keith just laid it down on what it takes to accomplish your goals and your analytical mind. I mean, this is actually so valuable for me even too. I mean. A lot of times I get in trouble because I have these big, these aspirations, and it's so easy just to get distracted by that long-term goal. And it's like you said, you go all in for a second, and you're like, shit, this is way harder than I thought. I gotta do this, and it's just overwhelming, and you can't actually break it down. And like you're saying, break it down as much as you possibly can to the simplest task and build from there. So
yeah, I think some people, you need to realize, especially with these personal goals, it's not like it is at your work and stuff. You're the manager of this stuff. Like I see some guys that are like, yeah, I'm bulking up, man. I'm gaining I'm trying to hit 210 by the end of the month. And I'm like, oh, cool, dude. And then the next week he's like, oh, I'm behind and I'm putting on a little fat. I don't like how it's going, but I got to chow it down to get to that 210. I'm like, why do you got to get to the 210?
Yeah.
Just take that 210 and put it 4 weeks from now so you can get to it in maybe a healthier way, or a way that it's more muscle or something.
Sure.
And I see this in various facets of like things I'm interested in, whether it be like yoga or like fitness stuff, or like, I don't know, I just see people like wanting to, it's okay to change the timeline on stuff. It's better to get the goal at some point than I don't know.
So let's touch on, again, your problem solving, analytical, you're a tinkerer. How did you use these characteristics to identify the career path you wanted to go? And do you have any advice for young men and women who are trying to make that distinction?
Well, I am a very analytical thinker, and I think that's kind of how I went into it. I was like, I like computers. I really like video games. Okay, so let's look at my options here. I looked into a degree called video game design, I think is the name of the degree. It's also at DSU. And I was looking at that and computer science, because they were more of like programming and stuff like that. And I had done a little programming in high school, and I really liked it.
Sure.
So I looked into it a bit. Now I'm a realist, and I was like, okay, we know college loans are spendy, rates are pretty high. I mean, this is like an issue in politics now. But I think people this is what I did, that I'm not sure if other people do this a lot. And I was like, what's the median income for both of those degrees? And what's the job placement for both of those degrees? Like the percentage of graduates that get job placements. And computer science was like 99% or something like that. And game design was much lower, and you would have to move to like Silicon Valley and stuff. And nothing against game design. Those guys they do awesome work.
Yeah.
But as much as I wanted to design video games, I want to be a little bit safer, and let's go with computer science. And I did, and it got me a really good basis, and I happened to strike up this awesome project, which was Virtual Green, and we've done some really cool stuff with it. But the way I made my decision was I was just real. I looked into the numbers and what is my median salary for this degree, and like it's not like it's people make it out to this thing like, oh, you're choosing your life decision. It's like, not really. Like, you can still direct your life after this. It's a big decision for sure, and it's really expensive. But I don't know, I was just a realist about it, and I worked really hard, and I was able to get to the degree. It was really tough, like, for sure, but yeah, that's kind of how I chose it, I suppose.
So along those lines, now that you're in your career, you're working really hard, you're committed. What does that work-life balance look like for you? And how do you, you kind of touched on it earlier, how do you support what you're doing at work by taking care of your body, taking care of your mind outside of work?
I think those are just, as far as like my body and my mind and like my need for social stuff, it's just something I realized I need to keep me happy, and I'm the best developer and problem solver when I'm my happiest.
Right.
You know, so I just think it's a way to keep me healthy and running at my best while I'm at work.
So what are the things that you do? I mean, you talked about backpacking. You mentioned yoga. Let's touch on yoga, because yoga has been a very powerful thing in my life. I've been kind of spotty with it. Cool. Same thing with meditation. But you've taken yoga to the next level.
Oh, I don't know about that.
To the viewers out there, I'm not sure if they've heard of AcroYoga. Right?
Yeah.
So let's touch on AcroYoga. What is it, and how did you get into it?
So AcroYoga is kind of a combination between acrobatics and yoga. So it's usually done with like a partner. So you'll have a person as a base and person that's a flyer, and you'll perform different like partner stretches and poses and acrobatic poses, and some that are like mixed with yoga posing. And yeah, it's just a really fun practice, because I found it's one of the only things that works you in multiple different facets. It's like a strength, endurance, flexibility, mobility, balance. It's like all these physical attributes like kind of being tested at once. And whenever I leave a practice of AcroYoga, I can like take note of like what my weak point is. And by weak, it's not just like a strength weak point. It might be like a flexibility thing or this and that. And it's just really fun and a good way to just kind of round yourself out as an athlete, I think. I think everyone should be training it. I see my weightlifting buddies and bodybuilding buddies, and over time I noticed like, oh, I wish those guys would do more like flexibility stuff and things, because they could be crazy if they did. And then like when I went to a yoga class, like I thought yoga is a great practice. Like these people are crazy flexible and balanced and stuff, but a lot of them didn't have a ton of muscle mass. And then like AcroYoga for me is like a cool little medium that I like to train like once or twice a week. And it just kind of rounds me out, I think. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so how do you get over like the stereotype from all your girlfriends in the gym who are there doing curls and benching all day, when they're like, dude, what are you doing AcroYoga for? Like, you know, how do you combat that?
I've never fallen into a stereotype. That's the thing. Yeah. And that's kind of been like, and maybe I would have, but if my mind was any different, or if I was a different person, but I just went by like where I naturally flowed, you know. And in even high school, and you know me in my younger years, like I like skateboarded and did some of that stuff. I did tech for the play. I was a cross country runner, and then later a power lifter. And like, you know, I kind of dabbled in a lot of different things, and I noticed like it's so much more enjoyable, at least for me, to like dabble in a bunch of different things. Like not so much that I can't contribute and get something back from each of those facets of my life, but I don't want to focus on one little thing, you know. I want to kind of dabble in a bunch of stuff.
And I couldn't agree more. You know, that's something that I talk about whenever I go back to talk to university students or high school students. Is I say, you know, obviously get out of your comfort zone, but try a bunch of different things. You know, don't get locked in to just doing football. That's something that I very much regret. Is I got into my mind that football was all I cared about. I did well in school, and that was it. I didn't go to tango lessons or go try to learn how to play the flute, for example, or, you know, anything that would have made me a more well-rounded person and really just helped me to better identify who I was a person and where I wanted to go in life.
And if I remember right, you were very good at football. Like, and like, I think the thing is, kids see these like celebrities and like these big time people, and they're inspiring these kids. And often you hear them say things like, if you got a dream and you know you can do it, like just go for it no matter what. Don't let anyone tell you different. And like, that sounds really cool, but like, not everyone's like a 1% football or basketball player, you know what I mean? And like, I think that's not exactly like, imagine if someone won the lottery and they're like, liquidate all your assets and get lottery tickets. Like, it worked for me. It's like, dude, diversify yourself a bit and dabble in the world, and you might surprise yourself and be like, wow, I really do fit in here, and I didn't notice at first because they wear weird clothes and they do this or that, or whatever the thing might be that like makes you averse to it. Just at least dabble in it. And if it's not your thing, now you know for sure. And you have that satisfaction for the rest of your life. And you know, like, just dabble around in different stuff. There's so many cool people in this world, and you know, and it's also given me these, like, you'll see these patterns in how people operate socially and psychologically that's similar among these groups, and that's something that I wouldn't have realized otherwise as well. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So,
Well, and I really get that just by traveling. You know, I've been to 25 plus countries.
That's cool.
You know, I was just in the Netherlands, and I'm like, I want to live in the Netherlands. These people, my girlfriend and I, we were laughing because we were talking about the Dutch smirk. Everyone in the town that we were staying in just had a smirk on their face. They were so happy, and the city was so clean, and the vibe was so positive. And I told my girlfriend that I am going to live here someday and write a book. But more of the story being, you know, the different perspectives on life, the different perspective on politics. That's how you learn how you actually want to live your life, I think.
And you can learn similarities that way too.
Right.
Because often when you get into something else, the properties and little minute things that you are attracted to in that thing, you'll see in those other people, and you'll start clicking with people that do other stuff and might be a bit different than you, but are alike enough to you that you can tolerate each other and learn from each other.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
And I found that in yoga. I found that in powerlifting. I found that in bodybuilding. I competed in a bodybuilding show once. Like,
nice. You
know, so it's just kind of cool to, like, and even just within the fitness world, there's just so much diversity of thought and desire of what your body should do and how it should perform and all that kind of stuff. And it's cool to see all those different facets, like, around the same goal, which is fitness and health in this instance. But
what is your long-term goal in fitness? You do a lot of different things: yoga, bodybuilding. You're in the gym at Great Life grinding. You know, you've dabbled in so many different things. Where do you want to be 30 years from now, 50 years from now? I mean, why? I
want to be as close as to where I am now for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the main goal. I want my body to function, to do the things I enjoy, which happen to be backpacking and some of that stuff. I want to look the way I want to look for the rest of my life. Like, it doesn't mean I'm going to do anything to get there, but it's definitely a priority of mine in the same way that everything else, like, is a priority in my life. And in terms of this, it's how I look, how I feel, and how I perform, I would say. Right. Yeah, those are the three main aspects. And so I want to feel flexible. I sit at a desk all day. Like, I don't want my lower back to get, you know, it's not, there's multiple facets to it, but just, Well, and this is coming from a guy, like I said, he and this is something I wanted to talk about. Back in the day, you were making your own supplements, you know, just taking random stuff. Are you still doing that? Like, I wasn't taking random stuff. Not really,
that sounds awful.
You didn't mean it that way. I know that.
I didn't mean it that way, but
yeah.
You were taking this is something that I had never come across. You were actually taking, like, specific
like amino acids
and specific things. Are you still doing that? Why not?
I think when I first started, I was like training in the gym, and like I was running cross country at the time, and I started noticing muscle coming on, and I was like, wow, I could just apply my analytical mindset, and instead of doing miles and times and stuff, I can do this weight stuff, and it gives me the same feeling, and I look better. This is like senior year of high school, and like, you know, your girls are looking and stuff, you know, it's just like, wow, let's do this thing. It has way more return for the time. So I started to do that, and I met some really cool guys through that, and they were taking these supplements, and like, you know, I'd try different supplements that were out at the time. And being the tinkerer that I am, I started looking into them. I'm like, what are these things? Why do they do these things? And it's amino acids and caffeine and various other mostly different amino acids and stuff that make the body behave a little bit better in terms of like nitric oxide or energy production or something like that during workouts. Like, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I dabbled enough to learn that. And then I noticed that all of them at the time said proprietary mixture. And they usually did that for like trademark reasons or, you know, whatnot. But it frustrated me because I was like, well, I don't know how much each of these things are in here.
Yeah.
How do I know what I'm really getting?
Exactly.
And I had some product back in the, I don't recall the name, but it got me really energized. I was like, ooh, this is great. Caffeine was in there. And I'm like, caffeine, I think coffee has caffeine.
Yeah.
I tried coffee. I basically had the same pre-workout. So I'm like, I want to know what I'm really getting here and what I'm paying for and why it's working. So I started buying amino acids that I know have scientific evidence backing them. And I just found different things that work for me. Just testing and tuning, basically.
Yeah,
You know?
But you don't do that anymore, right? I mean,
I do to some degree. I think the market's adjusted.
Sure.
I don't know if it adjusted because of the market or the way the businesses work and trademarks, or maybe enough people like me are out there.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I would say no. I think you're a rare breed, Keith.
But I only buy supplements that tell me, oh, you're getting 200 milligrams of caffeine, you're getting 3 grams of creatine, and you're getting 4 grams of beta alanine. And, you know, I could go on about the other stuff that is usually in supplements, but I like knowing that stuff so that I know what I'm paying for. Because some of those are more expensive than others, and I don't want to pay for something that I can make myself cheaper and put Lipton or Mio in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. So, you know, as we kind of wind this episode down, you know, what are some of the mottos that you live by? You know, give the audience one quote that you try to live your life by.
A quote. I think something I like, I think I originally saw it on like a Ronnie Coleman old bodybuilding video or something like that, but it was on his wall if I remember right.
Ronnie Coleman, is he the one that's like, ain't nothing but a peanut?
Yeah.
Ain't nothing but a peanut.
I was influenced by him largely just in attitude. Like he was so like, yeah, let's get it done, you know? And like in high school, that just like fueled my little, you know, testosterone high school big boy attitude or whatever. It was awesome, dude. Powerlifter guys and I at O'Gorman had a great time there. But there was a quote in one of these videos, and it said something like, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always had. And it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of true. You got to try different ways of conducting yourself in this world, whether it be like exercising a little more, eating a little bit less of this, you know, maybe less of Netflix time, or just tweak with different parameters in your life and like check the results. And maybe the results are negative and you don't like that, and then, you know, but there's all these different knobs we can tweak with, and I don't think we realize how much control of our lives we do have. You know, America's a great country, and there's a lot of stuff we can choose in our everyday life, like how much you sleep, how long you work out, how long you watch this or that, and you can get a different job that has different hours and choose who you hang out with, how much social media time you have, and just sometimes think like, is this what I've always done, and is it getting me what I want? If it's not getting what you want, try to do something you weren't doing before and see what that gets you.
Well, and I think that's the key, though, Keith. What you just said, in the sense of, you know, this is what you've always done, is getting the results that you want. Because I know for a fact, I mean, I've been in a situation where I'm you know, I want to get more lean. You know, I want to get more lean. I want that 8-pack to show, and yet I'm still here eating Dairy Queen and Snickers, you know, in the middle of the night. You know, so it's like,
I think it goes back to willpower. Some people see me like I eat like plain Greek yogurt every night. It's the worst stuff ever. Has no sugar, no fat, tastes like crap. I almost eat it like the way you take pills. It's weird. But the reason I do it, people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's power of will training. I think there's something to that. There's something to training your power of will. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Be okay with being uncomfortable. Try just putting yourself, like forcing yourself in something uncomfortable, even if there's like no obvious positive result at the end.
Right.
I used to take cold showers. I sometimes still do, for no other reason, because it's uncomfortable.
Right. No, that's a big.
It's such a good thing for your psychology. Like, don't be complacent with just being super comfortable with the way things are.
Well, and Simmons, Tony Simmons, he's like one of the biggest advocates of taking cold showers. Every morning he wakes up and jumps in a cold tub of like 35 degrees or something crazy. Every morning he does that, because there's something about the mind that, like, you know, makes you feel like you're actually almost about to face death or freeze to death, and it resets everything and gets you aligned for the day.
Yeah. Even that aside, take all the science away from this thing. It's good to be okay being uncomfortable and being in vulnerable situations, like we were saying before. Like, not so vulnerable that you can't act and conduct yourself to the truest extent of you, You know what I mean? Like when you have a gun pointed at your head, you're not truly you.
Right.
But you're also not truly you when you're completely blissful and you don't want to do anything.
Right.
That's not you. You're not in a vegetative state.
Right.
It's somewhere in between there. And, you know, I always just move between there. You know, that's life.
Yeah.
Navigating your way in between those things.
And Keith, how do you combat when, you know, that willpower isn't there? You know, in the times in life when you found yourself like in kind of a slump, maybe, I don't know if you've gone through depression at all.
Oh, for sure.
But, you know, how do you kind of elevate yourself out of those situations?
It can be really tough. You know, I've had a lot of tough times in my life, and I experienced death at a really young age. Like one of my best friends, my childhood best friend, died like a couple weeks after Joe Vierk died. You remember that?
Joe Vierk was one of my best friends.
Yeah, that was something. And like 2 weeks before that, my uncle, who I was really close to, died. And it's something that makes you super uncomfortable. And you know you're going to come out a little better on the other end, though. And I truly believe that, you know, and you'll feel more comfortable knowing that you went through something that bad. You feel, I don't know, it makes me feel a little stronger. And when I'm in those spots, just really good friends help, but just realize that, was it something that is your fault? And when you think about that, realize, okay, I'm still alive, there's a future, I'm going to alter my behavior so that I don't do those things to upset me. If it's something that happened and you didn't have control of it, in the case of Joe Vierk, in the case of deaths and various other really tough situations I've had to go through in my life, if you truly don't think you had total control of that, then don't hold on to that. You know, you need to accept things that you can't control. Unless you want to be someone that controls people, and that's not something you want to be.
No.
You know, people make their own decisions, nature makes its own decisions, and you know, we can navigate our lives in such a way that we try our best to avoid those, but interacting with variables that you don't have control over, like nature and other people, those things are going to happen, and it's really hard to go through that, but it makes the good times that much better, I think.
And I agree with a lot of what you said, and you know, I think it all goes back to perspective. You know, it's waking up in the morning, waking up knowing that you're alive, that you're a healthy body, that you have legs, you know, that you have a house over your head, and to really look at your life and understand that, in all, I mean, for the people here in South Dakota, for the people in the United States, that we have it really, really, really good.
We do, yeah.
And well, and you know, along those lines, like for me, it's journaling. Like I've been riding the wave of entrepreneurship. You know, the highs and the very, very lows. You know, of depression, of, you know, where you think your idea that you put all this effort and time and money and resources into isn't going to work out, and how do you climb yourself out of that? And for me, it's journaling. It's writing down affirmations in the morning that for things that I am or that I want to become. So I am a leader, I am kind, I am patient, and trying to manifest those things from my subconscious to really just turn myself into the person that I want to become. And along those lines too, it's the affirmations, it's the goals, it's the task management, like the Asana that you talked about. It's that organization and that perspective, I think, that can lift you out of any negative mindset.
Yeah, I think what you said there are a lot of things I could relate to in that, for sure. I think for me it was just, sometimes you just got to put your head down and work, and sometimes you got to put your head down and focus on making you more you and back to your sane state, you know. In times of my depression, I found backpacking is a big thing for me. Spending time with my dog was a big thing for me, and I don't know. I think it's important in life to take inventory and note of the things that really do give you good return, and how much happiness are you getting back from those things, and remember to really treasure those things and hold them close, and in tough times, splurge on them. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not all about total discipline. Like, sometimes you got to treat yourself.
You got to work hard, play hard. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's all about balance.
It's all about balance.
You know, that's one thing yoga taught me, and Acro taught me, like literally and figuratively. It's important in life to be really, really strong, but it's also important to be flexible and mobile, and being okay in uncomfortable situations, but over time you'll figure out how to balance in those uncomfortable situations, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, we're bringing this one to a close. Having Keith on, this is the reason why I started this show. Having in-depth, powerful conversations on meaningful topics, on how to navigate this life, on how to be analytical and improve yourself on a daily basis. Keith, thank you so much, man.
Hey.
It's been fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, you'll be on again. This is the start of many in the future, I think,
Awesome.
my friend.
Looking forward to it.
So this is another episode of Willpower. I'm your host. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have value in this, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube. Your attention is humbling, and I hope you get value from this. Until next time, peace.